Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jamie Munro and today we're going to be talking about self-service portals and case management using open source CRM solutions like sugarCRM as well as Microsoft Dynamics 365. The agenda today, we're going to talk a little bit about Webcurl, but really we want to spend most of today just running through a demonstration of what our platform can do, and we just want to show you our approach, our front-end portal, and how you can use it to connect to a back-end CRM system, and in particular allow the general public and registered users of your services to submit and interact with your staff on case requests. Once we've run through the demonstration, we'll have a quick look at some of the benefits of our approach and platform, and of course there'll be time for questions at the end. So a little bit about Webcurl. We are a web design, development and hosting agency, and we specialize in web adoptions using Drupal. We also have a division in the company that focuses on CRM and our integrated Access CRM solution. This is a software as a service platform, and it's powered by Drupal, and the backend CRM component is based on sugarCRM. But obviously it's not only sugarCRM that we can connect to. As you'll see later in the webinar, we can also connect to Microsoft Dynamics 365, for example. So we also offer the full range of digital services and support for all of our hosting. So as you can see, we've also worked with a number of different organizations in both the public and private sectors, a lot of councils, a lot of public sector organizations, and we have a lot of experience across the board with working with these kinds of organizations, and we're very familiar with the kinds of challenges and demands that are placed on councils and public sector. So I just want to show you a quick overview of the system we're using to demonstrate today. We have several components. The first bit is the front-end portal, which is based on Drupal. That's publicly accessible, general members of the public, as well as registered users, so people create an account and log in with their account details. Internally, internal staff will have access to these systems, and we've got two CRM systems today. One is Access CRM, which is based on sugarCRM, and we've then got Dynamics 365, which the portal connects to for most of today's demonstration. But I will also show you that we can actually connect to both of these and send data to both of these CRM systems. And finally, in the background for your staff and management, there's the Microsoft BI reporting platform, which for today's demonstration connects into the Dynamics 365 instance, but again that can be configured to talk to a wide range of platforms, not just CRM systems but also Excel spreadsheets, Microsoft SharePoint, SQL databases. You can collate a lot of data from a lot of different places, and that's quite useful to bear in mind if you are thinking about business intelligence systems generally, that implementing this platform may actually give you benefits in other areas of your business. Finally, for today's demonstration, our front-end portal is not configured to actually send emails, so we just have a simulated email platform sitting off on the side, and that's really just to show you the output of the emails that are generated by this front end, because they form part of the process when people register, for example. So we just want to run through some of that with you today. So the first thing I want to do is show you the case entity and compare how cases look in Dynamics 365 and how cases look in Access CRM. Generally in CRM systems they will be very similar, but we'll have a quick look, and this is what your internal staff will be seeing when they interact with cases. This isn't yet what the public or registered users will be seeing It's really just to show you what a case looks like in CRM. So if we switch over to Dynamics 365 and we pull up the cases area, we can create a new case, and it will ask us for various bits of information, and it's likely your staff, when they're creating these, would fill in a kind of more complete data set, but just show you the very basics. So we'll select an organization, we'll give our case a title, something broke, and we will just provide a little bit more detail. Something broke detail. So what you'll also see with cases generally is there will be relationships to various activities, so any updates or phone calls or emails that are related to this case will be captured against it here, as well as any notes that people working with the case have added to it. And staff can add phone calls, or they can add emails as they go through, and we need to save the record before we can do that. So if I save and close that, that will capture that as our new case. You can see I've created that, and that's related to the customer that we selected. So cases in Access CRM, very broadly similar. I think the interface in Access CRM is a little bit cleaner. It's not as busy as the Microsoft interface. So if we create a case, we'll choose a customer. You'll find the terminology will vary somewhat, but in principle it's the same thing. Something broke, and here we'll provide broke is detail. Oops. And that's it. In Access CRM, our case is created. Once it's created, it will then give you access to areas to create those activities, those phone calls, those emails, and you can have a history of notes, any documents, any related contacts. So it will all hang off the same record. So again, in principle, it's very much the same thing. But really what we're interested in is how the general public can start submitting cases directly to your CRM system, whether that's a sugarCRM or another CRM system. So for our demonstration, we've got our front end portal, which we've set up just as a sample console, a pretend console portal, where members of the public can browse to the console website, and they don't need to be logged in at this point. There's no username, there's no email address, there's no knowledge of the member of public. It is just purely anonymous, and we have a report an issue. And the idea here is that this is for those situations where a member of the public wants to report a concern, and it might be that a street light's broken, that there's a pothole, that somebody's been fly tipping. So this is where they'll be able to do that, and they can do that anonymously. They don't need to have a registration, but the system will allow them to remain notified of any updates. So the way this works is you do a search by postcode, and just have a look if anything comes up. And at the moment you can see that the map is clean. There's no markers on the map yet indicating that anyone else has reported a problem. So we can report a new issue, and here we will now be saying that someone dumped a mattress, and it may be that the mattress has been dumped on the corner of Phipps and Bailey Road, so we want to move the marker to indicate exactly where the issue is. And we've got a few categories. Obviously this would be a more comprehensive list, but for our purposes fly tipping is fine. Here the end user or member of the public can put in their email address, and that will allow them to remain updated on the issue. And here they can put a description. Mattress. If they want to add a photo, they can do. You can just choose a file and upload it. For now we won't do that. Submit the case as it is. And once that's gone through, you can see the end users given a message and just notified that they will be kept up to date. All of this can of course be customized. So if we go back to Dynamics 365 and if we refresh our case list, see there's our manual case that we created, and there's a new case which is the one that's come in from the portal. So that's come in directly into our CRM system, and you can see that that's come from an anonymous user from the portal. So if we open the case up itself, we can see all of the fields that we filled in manually have been pulled in from the web form. You can see it's updated the postcode to reflect where we moved the marker, and you can see that the user has been subscribed against the case. So they don't need a full user account, a full user registration to do this. CRM will allow you to subscribe an email address to a case so that they will remain updated. So what's also important to note is when this case comes in, CRM workflow will also send a notification to an internal member of staff, and you can customize that to whoever you like. And that can be an individual or it can be a distribution group, but it's really just to alert people that something has come in from the portal and someone needs to take an action, and it will include a link to the case itself. So that's quite a useful link, and obviously in an email client that link will be, you can click that link to follow through to the case. So that's now with the council to resolve, but if somebody else browses to the website and they've seen the same issue, and they also, the civic citizens they are, want to report that, when they do a postcode search, they'll see now that there is a marker that somebody has already reported an issue, and if they click on that, okay, there we go. So when they click on that, you can see the details of the case. There's no personal data. We didn't collect anything other than the email address, and we're not sharing the email address in this instance of anyone that subscribes to the case. We're just sharing the fact that somebody has dumped a mattress and the location of that, and you can see when it was created. So there's no need for that person to call the council, there's no need for that person to report a new issue, but if they want to remain updated as well, they can then subscribe to the issue, and they can add their own email address. And if there's an update, they may also want to say that actually there's also a TV, and again, if they wanted to add a photo, they could do, but they can then submit that, and that user has now been subscribed to the issue. So if we go back to the case, and it's the same case, so that the member of staff will be still interacting with just a single case, but there will now be, if you look at the notes, you can see that both user nodes have been added to the same case. And if you go down to the subscribed list, you can see that now there's a second user that has subscribed to this case. So that's quite useful, just to allow members of staff to interact with these cases directly from members of the public. And of course, this whole process doesn't have to be geared around reporting concerns to a council. It could be customized with or without the location for any other use cases that might be appropriate. Just general inquiries, submissions about training sessions that people have done. It can be any number of use cases. What you might also want to allow people to do is to have the ability to make more personalized requests where information relates directly to them. You may want to give them the ability to register and have more control over the information that they submit to you. And in this case, what a user would be doing would be creating a new account. So like most user accounts, that's fairly usual. So if we create a new user, so that's all we're capturing at this point, and we'll create a new account for them. So they'll get a message that they've applied for the account and that it needs to be approved by the council or by the site administrator. So accounts aren't automatically enabled. They will need to be verified by your team or somebody within your team. And what will happen is, and this is where we switch over to our simulated email server. These are notifications from our earlier submissions, but the ones we're interested in are these account details. So you can see there's two emails that have been generated by the portal. The first goes to the user themselves, and this again can be customized to any text that you would like to put in there, whether it's services available through the portal, any new notices, any terms and conditions, whatever you like. But this goes out to the user just explaining that the application has been received and what to do next. The other email that goes out is to an internal member of staff, and this is just this is a notification saying somebody has applied. Here's a link to their user account on the portal, and I'm going to follow that in an incognito window so that I can log in as administrator. But this will take that user directly to, will take the council user directly through to this page where they can then enable the user, so they can set it from blocked to active, and they will also need to just set the level of permission, which in this case is CRM cases. All of these other settings can be set by an administrator, but as you'll see in the next few steps, the end user can change all of these for themselves. So once the account is enabled and permissions have been set for CRM cases, and we can save that, and that's been saved. And if we then go back to the email server, you can see that a new email has been sent out to jane@doe.com, and now it's an alert to the user saying that their account has been approved, and it will then give them the link that they need to log in. So if we follow that, it will ask them to set a new password. So set a new password. And here is where that user can then set their own preferences. So we can then save and close that. Just to note that you'll see there is a username which is automatically generated, but the email address is what the user will actually be seeing and using to log in. save, close that. So now when we're looking at this, we have a much larger menu available than just report something to the console. There's a number of different options that are available to the user. This dashboard will just show them, it's an overview of any active cases or any resolved cases, and it's separated out into several different groups. The reported issues group is the list of public concerns, so things that have come in through that reported concern. They're not linked to any particular user, but users of the console services may be interested in those cases. So there'll be a list of them here for them to see. And this user, because we previously subscribed to that case, we can see that that's added a new, it's listed under our subscription, so we can keep a track on it. So you can see that even though we created the user account after we subscribed to it, the system has still managed to reconnect those two cases together, and all those two email addresses together, and linked this user back to that subscription. A note on contacts: when a contact is being created in CRM through this process, so when somebody registers for an account, it will create a contact record in CRM for that user, and if there is a duplicate and that contact already exists on the system when they register, there may be an extra step of merging records that will need to be undertaken. Again, there are steps that you can take to reduce that in terms of checking for duplicates, but it's something that your staff will always need to keep an eye on, just to reduce and maintain good housekeeping when it comes to contact records. So this user now has a couple of options. They've got to contact the council, and they can report an issue, which is exactly the same as the public reporting, so they can follow through the same process, but they now have a personal option, so they can contact the council relating something which is personal to them. So let's say that they want to ask the council about their council tax bill, so too much. Again, they can add a file if they want to, but otherwise they can just submit that and send that back to the council, and they'll then get an alert that that's gone through. And if I just go back to the dashboard, you'll see that there's now another active box there, which is this personal report or this personal query that they've added, and that's again separate from their list of subscriptions, and it's separate from their list of public issues, so it just kind of keeps things neat and tidy. Back in CRM, if we go through to cases and we refresh that, you can see that this is again come straight back through to CRM, and this time it's linked to a specific person rather than just the anonymous user. And if we open that up, you can see all of the notes have come through, and again a new alert email will go to a member of your staff to say that this has arrived. It can be sent to anybody you like. And what your caseworkers can do from this point is they can interact with this. They can either, if they make a phone call, they can add it in here, but if they want to reply to this, and let's say they need a bit more detail, let's say they would like to see council tax bill, so please scan list. So with CRM, there's also the template functionality which you could use if you're replying to a lot of council tax queries. You could always set up templates and just streamline some of your email responses and improve your consistency. But we're just going to send that through as it is. So if we send that like that, and that will now go as an email against the case, so that's tracked as an activity. And if we go back to the user's dashboard to see things from their side, and then go into the case, and you can see that my reply has been added back under the communications. This will also go through to their normal email address, so however they collect or read email usually, and they'll be able to read this through that. And there's a CRM tracking number in this, so if they reply from their normal Outlook or normal Yahoo or whatever it may be, that reply will also be tracked against this case, and anything that's tracked against this case as an email will get pulled through under the communications. So everything will be kept nice and neat and together. But if Jane Doe does log in and want to reply through the portal, she can do that. So here is the scan. Let's see, attached. So we can now go through and attach the council tax bill. This is limited to image files at the moment. You can customize which types of files you receive, but obviously you want to consider which file types are safe to add to your CRM system. You wouldn't want to accept executables or zip files, for example. So we can send that back through, and that's now gone through. It's been attached, and you can see that the scan is already there. And in the CRM system, if we refresh the case, you'll see that I open the email, we have the council tax bill scan coming through on that. So there. There's the council tax bill coming through. So that's a very handy way to handle communications. The end user can interact with it either through email or through the portal, but your staff just need to interact with it through CRM, so they can have a pretty consistent workflow, and it just keeps things a lot more organized. So once they're happy that this case has been resolved and that they've answered the question, they can resolve that case. I'm just complaining that I haven't closed down the emails, and that's fine at the moment. So if I say the bill was adjusted, and I'll just paste that into the marks. So I can resolve the case, and that's all neatly tied up, and of course that will, if I refresh this, that will get reflected in the customer's portal as well, so they can see exactly what's happened and how and why the bill or the case rather was closed down. And when they look at the dashboard, they'll have a new section for resolve, so any resolved cases will still be accessible. They'll be able to go back through and see previous correspondence, but it's again kept separate, and it keeps things neat and tidy. So the other thing that end users can do from the portal once they've logged in, once they've registered and logged in, is to update their own details. So if they go to update my details, you can see the information that they provided when they registered, but you can get them or ask them to provide a bit more information. So they can provide a job title, they can provide how they want to be contacted, and they can provide a phone number, and of course address, and any other details that you capture in CRM. You can ask them to update through this form, and once they update that, that's connected directly back to their contact in CRM. So if we have a look at Jane Doe, you can see now that job title has been updated and phone number is there, preferred method of contact is email. So that gives them a lot more control over their own access, and self-service portals and access to personal data is very timely at the moment, with the General Data Protection Regulation coming in May next year. Self-service portals are one of the ways that you can move towards complying with that, by giving people a lot more access to seeing the information that you hold about them. In this case, you're showing them all of the cases and correspondence that they've had with you, and they also have access to control their own personal data, as well as choosing the method of communication. And you can also set whether they want to be communicated for marketing materials, all of those kinds of activities through the self-service portal. So if we have a look back at the general model of the demonstration platform, we've had a look at the front-end portal and reporting an issue as a member of the public, searching by postcode to see if there are any already reported issues. We've had a look at registering as a user, and we've seen how that information and user information comes back into Dynamics 365, as well as information flowing back to the portal in terms of updates and email correspondence. The next bit to have a look at is the reporting functionality, and this is Microsoft's Power BI. So if we switch over to have a look at Power BI, it's a very powerful and very flexible tool, and let's make that full screen. So this is the functionality that comes out the box once you connect it to Dynamics 365. So it's the default reports and KPIs that they provide, but it's flexible in that you can create your own and you can customize some of the trends and statistics that you're looking at. So I think the ones that come out of the box are still very useful. You can see the different types of case. You may want to, for example, change that to the category of problem, so that might be fly tipping or street lighting or roads or highways, whatever the case may be, so you can see the breakdown of the different case types. You can see the general kind of numbers of cases that have been coming in. What you also might find interesting is the origin or the source of the cases. So this obviously depends on how well your staff are using this to capture incoming phone calls or emails that are converted into cases in your CRM system. But what you would start to see going up as you start using the portal is that the number of web cases will start to increase, and you'll be able to see that trend increasing. And you can also see the breakdown by priority, so you can start to get a sense of how your staff are prioritizing cases, or how your customers are reporting them. So you can also see the breakdown of how cases are being resolved over time. You can see the number of cases that are coming in week by week, and you can drill down into that and see how many cases have been created in that week, and in that week how many of those cases have actually been resolved. So the further back you go, the more likely it is that your cases are going to be resolved, but as you come forward in time, you start seeing that cases actually aren't being resolved as they're still being open and being active. But you can start to pick out trends in all of that, and if you've got specific SLAs or performance indicators that you need to hit, this is the kind of tool where you can really get a lot of information about how well you're doing against those indicators. Power BI also gives you a number of different filters where you can start filtering by date or by the type of case. You can start generating your own cuts from a data set if you have a specific reason that you want to find out or drill down for any particular reason. That's very useful. You can also export data from Power BI, so you can get a set of data, and if you filtered it down, you can just export the filtered set of data. But if you need to get it into Excel for whatever reason, you can export the data set from here. And if you have data in Excel or in another SQL database or another CRM system, you can also connect Power BI to several different data sources. So as long as there's some commonality between the data sets that you're looking at, you can start to pull in data from different sources, and that is also incredibly useful. So the final part of the demonstration that I want to show you is the ability for the front-end portal to talk simultaneously to two different CRM systems. Traditionally, a front-end portal will talk to a single back-end CRM system, but with the Access CRM system, you can configure it so that it can send information depending on the context or how you configured your front-end portal, but you can send information to Dynamics 365 in some situations, and you can send data to Access CRM or another CRM system in other situations. So for example, let's say you've got two legacy CRM systems. One holds, say, your council tax queries, the other holds your highways issues. So in your front-end portal, you may create a form for any council tax queries to fire off into Dynamics, and any highways or road concerns would fire back into Access CRM. So you can use the same portal, and that streamlines it for your end users because they just have a single portal to log into, but they can still send information to the right team at the council, and that's a very useful tool if you currently have several legacy CRM systems and you need to either transition away from that or move to a system which is only using a single front-end portal for your end users. So what I'm going to show you is very much just demonstrating this functionality, and we're going to send a lead from a single portal into Dynamics 365, and we'll also send a lead into sugarCRM. So for this, we've got two web forms set up, and how you want to give people access to those forms, we can configure that as you like. It could be based on some logic, or it could be based on people choosing a particular page, council tax or road concerns, for example. So this is just a very simple lead form. That's last, and we'll put a phone number in. So when I submit that, that's going to send that lead back into the Dynamics 365 system, and we'll be able to see it come through as a lead in Dynamics 365. So if we switch over to the Sales app, and we can start to have a look at leads and have a look at all leads. You can see that that lead has actually come through from the portal, so that's come back into Dynamics 365, and that can then be progressed from there. And at the same time, we can generate a lead that goes back to Sugar, and if we submit that, and that's gone straight back through into Sugar or Access CRM. So again, if we go over to the Sales and have a look at leads, you can see that that's come through and has been received directly into that Access CRM system. So it's a very simple demonstration of a very powerful utility and this ability to be able to send information to multiple CRM systems from the same portal. And with a bit of effort and a bit of development, we can also, from multiple CRM systems, you'll be able to build up a series of views that would combine data from those multiple CRM systems back into a single dashboard for your users. So you would have all of the highways issues that have been reported, you could have all of the council tax issues that have been reported, so you would still be able to see everything in a single location as an end user. So it would not just be sending the information to CRM, you could also extract it and display that back to your end users. So that brings us to the end of the demonstration, and I wanted to run through some of the key benefits of this approach and this platform, and a single front-end portal that can very easily send data directly into one or more CRM platforms at the back end. One of the main benefits is this idea of configuration versus development. You will spend more of your time configuring the system rather than developing it, and this means that you will be able to have far more control over the system because you and your staff will be able to interact with it through user interfaces, and you will be able to build it the way that you want. There's a lot of capability in Access CRM that I haven't covered today, and this is around building your own web forms. So you can actually create a form from any entity in your CRM system that will collect information directly from your end users, and those forms can be very complex, and you can build a lot of logic into them to display or hide fields as necessary. And this really will make your life a lot easier in the long run, because you're not having to raise a change ticket and pay somebody to change your front-end system every time you need to add a new field or every time there's new regulatory pressures to collect more data. It really will give you more control. As we've looked at, having the ability to connect one portal to several different CRM systems will help you to transition away from legacy CRM or multiple CRM backends, because you can just give your end users a single point of entry to connect to all of those. In the background, you can then be consolidating those CRM platforms with very little disruption to your users or your user experience, because they are already on a single front end. So that's really is a way to give you a phased transition away from legacy systems. With the Power BI, you've got access to far more consolidated and far better reporting tools. I know from experience that having to generate reports from disparate places, and certainly in CRM it can take a while to build the advanced finds, to set the filters, get the data set that you're after, export it into Excel, manipulate it a little bit, and then put some graphs on top of that, it really can take a long time to compile all of this information. And if it's something that needs to be done on a regular basis, then giving managers or people who need the reports their own, the ability to do that on their own is a very compelling reason to look at a system like that. It's self-service for managers, and it will take the burden off those power users who are routinely having to do the exports. The other benefit, certainly if you look at a platform like sugarCRM, which is based on open source technologies, the costs of implementing that are far lower than looking at a platform like Microsoft Dynamics, where the licensing cost per user per month can be prohibitive, and the more users you have, the higher that cost rises, where sugarCRM gives you a fixed cost throughout the year, which will cover the platform, it'll cover your hosting, it'll also give you support and assistance with that. One of the main reasons for looking at a platform like this is obviously the reduction of burden on your staff, so the time that it takes to manipulate data from one system into another system, maybe double entering it, manually entering data from an email into a CRM system, or taking a PDF and scanning and attaching it somewhere else. These manual processes are often slow and inaccurate and will lead to duplication of effort, they'll lead to duplicate contacts, they will lead to inaccuracies in your data sets, and if you need to keep data synchronized across several systems, that's going to cause you problems in the long run, because you'll need to consolidate that data at some point, whether it's for reporting or whether it's for migration to a new platform. But all of those inaccuracies are going to need to be resolved one way or another, and that will take time and effort at some point. So really making sure your data is accurate at the point at which you collect it is a far cleaner approach, and is one of the key benefits of this system. But as I've pointed out, there are a number of different benefits, and we would be very happy to have a talk to you about your specific situation and how we might be able to help, how this one platform might work for you. So please give us a call, drop us an email. And obviously, if you have any questions, we're very happy to answer those now if we can. But certainly, if you want to speak to us and ask more detailed questions, then we're always available on our phone number or by email. So please do get in touch. And that brings us to the end of today's webinar.